There are so many people who on the internet are asking for a Steam Deck 2, and I think that's fair, but I am completely against them. I hope that one doesn't come out yet. The Steam Deck 2 is supposed to release in around 2028, 2026, something like that. That's what rumors are saying now, and I'm pretty happy with that timeline, but I am hoping more for the 2028 timeline. Like I said, it's not because I bought this, but it is mainly because I think that this thing still holds up to this day. And there's so many people who are against me. I am not. I think that this screen is fantastic. Even though it's 800p, I think it's fantastic because there are so many more things about the screen that just make up for it. Because humans perceive colors and a lot of different, they perceive things differently. It's not all about refresh rate or your screen size, or it can be about so many different things. It can be about how bright it is. So the thing with the OLED is that the OLED reaches around 1000 nits of peak brightness, which is so bright. And it's nice too. Comparing this to the Switch 2, I believe it's way brighter than the Switch 2, first of all, because the Switch 2 is around 640 nits at peak brightness. So this is 1000 nits, and it's an OLED screen, which means you get those inky black. So it's pitch black. When something, you have any, if you're watching a movie on here, I don't know if you do that, but if you do, if you're watching a movie, you'll see those black bars at the top because of the aspect ratio. You'll see it be pitch black. So you're not going to get any of that bleeding or whatever. It's great. And if you're playing games, things like the blacks just shine and colors absolutely pop. And that's one of the greatest parts about it is the screen. The screen holds it up so well. And that's what I want to bring it back to, is a lot of people talk about something like the PlayStation Vita and how the PlayStation Vita holds up so well for its build quality and just how it feels like a modern device. Now, if you think about it, why does it feel like that? Well, a lot of it comes back to, the build quality, but also the screen itself, and that's an OLED. Now, it doesn't get as bright as something like the Steam Deck here, but that just means the Steam Deck feels even more premium, in my opinion. The ergonomics on this thing completely smoke out something like the Rogue Ally or Legion Go, in my opinion. I think that this is quite literally one of the best handhelds that have ever been released, and also the software pairs so well with it. And when I say software, I'm talking that Linux and SteamOS that's running under Linux runs so much smoother for a lot of the video games that you're actually realistically playing, because running them under Windows, which is what a lot of these other handhelds are doing. I believe there's one of them that does use SteamOS now. There's only one official one, that's third party from Valve, that works like that. But anyways, most of these things are running Windows, and Windows, honestly, is just so bloated. And yes, it has compatibility, and that's a great thing, but you can also do that on here too. If you really want to run Windows, you could totally run Windows, and that's not holding you back. I think having Linux on this handheld has made it so much better. And the community has been a fantastic resource just to really go and tinker around with things, because this is such a popular handheld that if there's ever really a problem that you have, you can actually find a good solution for it, because there's so many people who also own Steam Decks. And that's one of the great things about it too, is that, if there was a Steam Deck 2, that's also going to be the case again, is there's going to be just so much more of a community-driven experience where everyone can, if you actually have a problem, you can search it up on a forum and figure that out. When I say I don't want a Steam Deck 2 yet, it's because I was talking mainly about that this thing actually just holds up completely fine. There are some areas where it does lack, and that's what a lot of these Linux handhelds, though. That's the one problem with Linux, is when it comes to this, it's anti-cheat, and most things for online gaming like that, with any anti-cheat, really. That's just the fault of Linux, though. That's nothing to do with the actual Steam Deck, because you can totally dual boot Windows on these things. No problems about it. Windows runs completely fine, no issues. You can dual boot SteamOS and Windows and run your games fine. To me, Valve is not all about hardware either. That's kind of one of the things I want to get on too, is that, what they care about mainly is SteamOS and Proton, which is the experience of the device. And I think that's why it feels like it holds up so well too, compared to most modern devices to begin with. Since the launch of Proton and SteamOS, it's a massive difference. Honestly, if you go back and look at videos or anyone talking about this beforehand, there are so many issues with this, but they've continuously been putting updates out and supporting the device. Seriously, it's every couple weeks that an update comes out for this device that fixes some kind of problem that some somebody's been having, and it's great. And like I was saying before, the community support is also fantastic, and Valve's backing it, and I think that's why it feels so fresh still to this day. Like, you can still get this thing. It feels great. Everything about, like, it runs great. The community is great behind it. Like, it's just a great device overall. And that leads me right back to the point. Do I think we need a Steam Deck 2? Yes, obviously we need a Steam Deck 2, but I don't think we need it now. And like I was saying before, with the community and Valve still updating this, it just doesn't feel needed yet. I do believe that, yes, this lacks behind some of the other competition for the handheld space as of now, and I don't think a Steam Deck 2 is going to completely crush them out, if I'm being honest, because those are like $2,000 devices, some of them, here in Canada. And I know in the US it could be like $1,000, $1,200, even before tax, depending on which state you live in, and I know in Canada it's whatever province you live in for your taxes, but I'm getting sidetracked. It can be a really big difference compared to this, and I think that a Steam Deck 2 isn't necessarily going to beat them out, but I do think that it'll pretty much rival them pretty close. And I know people have their hopes up for the console itself, but you gotta keep your expectations pretty reasonable and expect it for 2028. Even if it comes out in 2026, that's great, but I'm happy to wait. I don't need it yet. It's not something I'm asking for. And again, it's not because I got this 2 months ago. I'm completely happy. If this came out tomorrow, the Steam Deck 2 came out tomorrow, I wouldn't be mad. And like I was saying in one of my previous videos, what do I want to see in a Steam Deck 2? I won't completely bore you with what I said before, but I did revise it a little bit. I said before that I wanted a bigger battery and a bigger screen and, you know, bigger trackpads, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's all true, but I also thought about it a little more. I want bigger and better thermals. That's one, because I was saying before that everyone smells their deck vents, which I don't. And some of you do, which is odd. Anyways, I was also thinking that, you know, a higher res screen or something. I was thinking like, oh, what if we did like 1080p? But realistically, I don't think we need that. I think if we got away with like 900p, that would be fine. That's only 100p more than what we have now, but that's going to give you way better battery life, and to me, that's going to be great. I think they should keep the same form factor that they've had this whole time, and just maybe make it a little bigger. If I'm being honest, the whole Steam Deck 2 thing can wait, because to me, this OLED almost feels like a whole upgrade, like a whole Steam Deck 2 right here already. It's almost like I'm waiting for a Steam Deck 3, even though I know Valve hasn't called this a Steam Deck 2. To me, this felt like a Steam Deck 2 right on launch. It had so many upgrades. Now, I know not performance, but there were so many things about this that would almost warrant it being called a Steam Deck 2 to begin with. Like the whole OLED panel, 1,000 nits, you know, better battery. It was almost just better battery, better screen. It's everything you want to see in a sequel anyway. And I know it was a mid-gen refresh, or maybe mid-gen refresh. I don't really know, because we don't know when it's coming out, but we have ideas. I think that this already is like a Steam Deck 2, and that's why I'm so happy with it. It really does suffice everything that I want in a handheld to begin with. And the emulation on it is fantastic. Like I've said before on my other videos, emulation is the main thing I really do on my Steam Deck to begin with. And it pretty much suffices that. I mean, Switch emulation can be hit or miss depending on the game, if I'm being honest. And I know that some other handhelds are better with that in particular than this is. But if you don't only do Switch emulation and you just want to play some games with your friends on Steam, I mean, you're pretty much fine. Unless it has anti-cheat, then don't do that. Unless you want to run dual boot. But you have the freedom to do that. You could totally run dual boot Windows, and you're not really held to that. So that's pretty much all I got for you. So anyways, with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and why not subscribe? I mean, it's free. So hey, take a look, at least look at it. If not, then whatever, that's okay. At least you watched, and I appreciate that too.